You might know it as Fable Legends, the cancelled multiplayer game, but underneath all the gameplay issues and the failed launch was a story that took place in an Albion that existed not just decades, but probably centuries before the events of the first Fable. Fable Legends was a prequel to the world of Fable we know oh so well, with lost lore that would have shown us Albion's still wild world, where the Heroes Guild didn't yet exist and magic creatures, extinct by the events of Fable 1, ruled the wilderness. I'm Zoe Delahunty-Light, and I'm here to tell you about that side of Albion that we never got to see. This is the Fable prequel we never got. Fable Legends was going to be set in a world that we had never seen before. Back then, the land was saturated in fantastical folklore and there were no hobs, Heroes Guild, or anyone in fact ruling the realm. As always seems to be the case with prequels and ye olden times, magic was more prevalent in this Fable prequel. Far from being semi-domesticated in the Fable trilogy, magic was a dangerous thing, so there was this intense mistrust of it, especially in the south amongst the villages and towns that bordered the woods. Magic was confined to the wilderness where the Fae live and play and toy with mankind, living precariously on its borders. In the north, it was the exact opposite. Magic was commonplace there, used by many but mastered by few. Mother Prequel was among those who had mastered, although almost, magic, an alchemist who was housed in Bright Lodge, but with chicken legs due to an industrial mishap in making her potions. Although the world was different, you could still find the same strains of magic that you get to use in the Fable trilogy. Shadow Blight was one of them, which has affected a character Leech, a necromancer-ish healer figure which somehow does work. It sounds like it's roughly the same form of power that's used by the Shadow Court, which gave Reaver his eternal youth, and is related to the Raise Dead spell, where you summon shadows to fight for you. Magic was intertwined with Albion and far outstripped being just used for spells. Take Malice, a tank character. He didn't actually have a body in the flesh and blood sense. Instead, a lantern within the torso of his armour contained his soul. Malice himself was a novel concept that I actually really enjoy. He was a reanimated evil warlord who was cursed to feel pain whenever he did anything nefarious, so he was basically beholden to pay off his debt by doing good deeds. Malice and other characters were drawn from villages, castles, and in Malice's case, graves, because in a time before the Heroes Guild existed, anyone with an ego and a modicum of will, skill, or strength, or a curse that brought them back to life, could aspire to adventure and earn the reputation of a hero. With no Heroes Guild, there was no training regimen, mentor system, job boards, nowhere for individuals to learn skills or undergo any formal learning to become a hero. All people had to rely upon was their own tenaciousness. But having magical items did help, of course. Albion Artifacts were going to be a part of the game, these legendary, powerful items dredged up from Albion's rich and ancient history, like Inga's shield, which she unearthed from a local burial mound and used to defend her village. A wizard was trapped inside of it. The way this Albion artifact worked was that it started out made of wood, and as Inga became more powerful, it would gradually turn into a brass shield. And during the transition, the wizard would turn from lamenting their ill fortune to being happy that they're now big and strong even though they're still stuck in a shield. Always look on the bright side of life, I guess. Albion was still at threat from chthonic beings at the time, as is noted in the description of the Arbalist Rook. I don't know what beings these were, as I can't find much more information about them online, but like the Crawler and the Darkness from Fable 3, they would have been enough of a threat for Albion to have its own kind of Night's Watch, as Rook does seem to fit that role in his description. Despite not knowing anything about these threats, there was still plenty to fear and intrigue within Albion's borders. Instead of the paths between settlements being plagued with hobs and balverines, which have been in the series since its inception, travellers instead encountered creatures that would have populated woodlands and fields and darkness before being hunted to extinction by the growing number of heroes. The idea was that the ancestors of hobs and balverines would make an appearance, showing us what they looked like in times of old and how they had to evolve into something different to survive by the time we meet them in the first Fable. So let's kick that off by talking about Balverines, my favourite Fable creature along with the Banshee. In Fable Legends, we would have got to see their ancestors. Balverines are descended from the Balvorn, a terrible creature from the time when gods and demons walked the land, and with Legends being set centuries before Fable, these iterations are markedly more like their demon progenitor. Ferocious, bulky, and primitive, they look more snub-nosed than the Balverines of Fable, and much more rat-like, not nearly as lupine as they eventually got in Fable 3. Long gone by the time of the hero of Oakvale are the Goodfellow. These Feyfolk were a big part of Fable Legends. Comprised of pucks, pipers, redcaps, ogres, rosewhites, nymphs, and others, these Feyfolk made the woods their domain. Pucks are mischievous fairy folk with a taste for drink and dance, with these creatures being common and bold enough for villagers to be wary of running into them. Pucks are darkly mischievous and amoral beings, so I think we'd get along great. Somewhat like the folk legend of the Green Man. In their eyes, humans are stupid playthings to be toyed with, a mindset I can certainly understand, although they can be on humanity's side sometimes, but only when it suits their delights. Pipers aren't described much, but safe to assume they have a fondness for music. While pucks and pipers are amoral at best, redcaps are straight up evil. Just like the folk creature of the same name, Fable Legends redcaps die if their red cap comes off. So, in an admittedly ingenious, if unhygienic move, they've nailed their caps into their heads. Not too worried about damaging anything in there, I take it. Like with much of Fable's creature design, which I absolutely adore and will go on about until someone shuts me up by force, the redcaps imbued meaning into these nails. One nail equals one hero they've killed, so having more nails is a status symbol for redcaps. Doesn't stop our heroes of Fable Legends from mowing them down though, as redcaps were fairly common in Albion of old. Ogres were a more difficult enemy to encounter, but were far more than just sheer mass. See, their heart and their brain are both found in their head, so if you were to, for example, pull the head off an ogre and use it as a mace, the decapitated ogre could still berate you, which is exactly what the ogres in Legends did. Deep magic lies waiting within Albion's woods, and Rosewhites are the guardians of that power. They take a human-ish form in order to protect the trees from axes and would-be heroes, and to frighten people and keep them away from the heart of the woods. Sort of like Legends' answer to trolls, Rosewhites form from the ground like Fable's trolls, but with more floral splendour, and I don't think they laugh at you either. They are at the beck and call of the antagonist of Fable Legends, and the being that kept humans scared of the wild, the enigmatic Lady of Rosewood. First, she's introduced as the beguiling White Lady, a benign force who resides in the wilderness, beautiful and strange. Then, people begin to steal her roses for the Festival of Roses in Bright Lodge, and she turns into the vengeful Scarlet Lady, and eventually the Lady of Rosewood. She kidnaps the self-proclaimed king in revenge, and the heroes have to go get him back, but honestly, judging by the cutscenes I've seen of him, she can keep him. I'd much rather be ruled by a rose-strewn, masked lady tall enough to crush me with her claws. The Lady of Rosewood was the pinnacle of the powerful folklore food chain of old, and she sure looked like it. Her lair dwelt within the heart of the rosewood, its very core known as the Darkwood, the most dangerous part of the forest. Within its confines is what remains of the Old Kingdom. In Fable Legends, the Old Kingdom is no more, like the more modern games, in its place a disparate spread of settlements without any coherent bureaucracy or order binding them together. The Old Kingdom was once a kingdom of plenty, then ruled by the court with Jack of Blades among them, and then Archons before suddenly disappearing. Old ruins lie within the heart of the Rosewood, with one of its crumbling statues reclaimed by nature to the extent that it looks like a moon. I really wish we'd got the chance to explore here, much like the rest of the world of Fable Legends. For fans of Fable, the Old Kingdom is this area and time that we've never really got to explore and is shrouded in mystery, so I love the idea that Fable Legends would have toyed with that a bit more. It's just a shame we didn't get to see it come to fruition. I'm sad that we never got to see this side of Fable, but with the Fable reboot in the works, and with it looking like it's going back to the series' folklore roots, as there's a very visible fairy in the trailer, which could be a nymph but wasn't really in the previous Fable games, I guess there's the chance that we might still see this older, more dangerous, and more magical Albion yet. What do you think of Fable Legends and the world it would have created for us? Let me know in the comments below, and while you're at it, let me know any other games, lore that you want to hear me delve into. You can find a video game lore playlist on the Eurogamer channel, so if you're interested in forbidden/hidden knowledge, make sure to subscribe and check the playlist out, and keep an eye on the channel for more lore videos. Now I'm gonna go and replay Fable 2 because it's my favourite out of the trilogy, and you can debate that in the comments too, so I'll see you next time.